On 12 News at 4, we are all about bringing you solutions and empowering you to better your lives. Every day, we bring some of the Valley's most experienced professionals to discuss trending topics on health, ways to save money and improve your financial life, the law, relationships. We even have an expert on pets. And it's not just us asking the questions, we give you, the viewer, the opportunity to weigh in and ask questions too. Now, we're putting all these segments together in one place for you. This is Ask the Expert. Well, a recent new study by Harvard Medical School revealed that people who take popular weight loss drugs like Ozempic or Wegovy may have a higher risk of developing a rare eye disease that could cause blindness. Again, we want to stress the condition is rare. We're talking up to 10 out of 100,000 people may experience this, but doctors noted 3 cases in 1 week, and each of those patients was taking semaglutide medications. So let's ask the expert. Joining me now is Dr. Sonal Harder of Dignity Health Medical Center, and she's also board certified in obesity. Okay, I want to get your first reaction to this study.
Okay, so first reaction is important to know the study itself, and the study has several limitations. Okay. So we need more research and more solid research to back this up. So at this time, this information is not enough for us to discontinue medications in patients who are taking it for diabetes and obesity. But here's what I would like to tell all our patients who are on these medications. If you have no symptoms, if you're doing really well, it's still very important to follow up with your doctor, have regular follow-ups. Check on those symptoms and signs. If you are noticing any symptoms, this is a good something to keep in the back of your mind, that there are some evolving signs and symptoms that we are still researching and studying. So we do need more research, but we need to be keeping this in the back of our minds.
Well, and especially when you're talking about blindness, possibly, but again, 10 out of 100,000.
And the interesting thing about this condition is diabetes and obesity are risk factors for this eye condition. So it's very important to control diabetes and take care of obesity as well.
Sure. Keep it in context. Okay, so let's go over some of these very common side effects, though, that will affect, obviously, more than 10.
Correct. So about 50% patients actually who are taking semaglutide will experience some kind of GI side effects. So the common ones are nausea, vomiting, bloating, diarrhea, acid reflux kind of symptoms, and obviously feeling very full. Now, these are very common symptoms, but these symptoms tend to subside as patients take these medications for 4 or 8 weeks, and typically about 2 or 3 months is a sweet spot. Most patients report resolution of these symptoms. Now, there are some rare side effects, and this is something that people need to keep in mind, is pancreatitis. So inflammation of pancreas is something we see very rarely, but we do see this, especially people who are using excessive alcohol or patients who have gallstones. This can be an added side effect.
So you shouldn't be obviously drinking.
Right. Well, I would say minimal drinking, just social drinking. Keep in mind that the medication increases the risk for pancreatitis. The other thing is thyroid cancer, a specific type of thyroid cancer. Medullary thyroid cancer. If there's family history of this type of cancer or self-history, these patients are not good candidates for semaglutide or medications like that. And then we also see weight loss, which is desired, but sometimes the weight loss is excessive and can cause skin folds, which can come with some other side effects. So things to remember.
And the skin fold, I mean, that could sometimes result in surgery to remove it, right?
Absolutely.
I've also heard, can I just add to real quick, is paralysis?
Gastroparesis, which is basically your stomach kind of, doesn't move as quickly as it's supposed to and can lead to obstruction. Now, this particular side effect is very rare, just like the eye condition
because that kind of scared me and many others.
So very rare. And there are ways to actually take care of that, which is eating fiber, staying hydrated. So when you're taking these medications, it's very important that you follow a physician who knows how to manage these medications. So eating fiber, eating protein, your hydration matters, eating those vegetables and fruits are very important because these are things that can actually reduce the side effects, and especially like constipation and nausea.
Which are If you think about it, kind of common anyways, that's how you
Absolutely.
should lead your, healthy eating lifestyle to begin with.
And that goes back to this is foundation for healthy living, right?
Right.
These medications are not a substitution for healthy living.
Yeah.
So going back to you have to maintain your nutrition, your physical activity, your sleep, cycle, as well as your stress levels.
Yeah.
That's your foundation. These medications will assist you in getting to those goals better if you have foundation of that.
It's not the sole solution.
Absolutely.
It's part of it.
Correct.
All right, Sonal, great information. Thank you. Time now to ask the expert. Here to answer your questions live on air about popular weight loss drugs and their side effects is Dr. Sonal Harder. All right, Jamie from Phoenix says, I take several medications for some chronic conditions. Are there any medications that are unsafe to mix with weight loss drugs?
This is a great question.
Yeah.
So one of the things that is important when you go to your doctor's visits is sitting down with your doctor with all your medications. We actually have a tool where we look for interactions, and if they are significant, we modify treatments. For example, weight loss medications like semaglutide tend to interact with thyroid medications, antidepressants, some blood thinners, some asthma medications, some antibiotics. So when you, and certain diabetic medications too.
Right.
So it's important that when you go to doctor's visits, you take all your medications that you're taking and you ask your doctor to check for interactions. Most doctors do. I know I do this in my practice almost every single visit because some of these interactions can be very unsafe.
Yeah,
so
that's a
great
big
question.
deal. Yeah. Physically bring it in. Why not,
Absolutely.
right? Yeah,
Yes.
big old Ziploc bag. All right. How long do these typical side effects last?
That's a great question. Most GI side effects that are over 50% patients actually experience GI side effects, nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, fullness, bloating. These tend to last about 2 to 3 months. They gradually get better, and most patients actually report complete resolution by about 3 to 4 months.
Okay, but what if
So-
it continues?
If they continue, then we have to modify the dosage or consider another medication.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
All right. Good to know. Next one. I'm worried about not being able to handle the side effects. If I can't, then what?
Okay, so if you are taking these medications for diabetes, there are some other medications that we use for diabetes,
Right.
as well as obesity. So for obesity, we have 3 to 4 other groups that we use for treatment of obesity. So if people aren't able to tolerate semaglutide or Mounjaro or Zepbound, we do have other options.
Okay. So there's still, I mean,
Absolutely.
don't give up completely.
And the other thing, Tram, is depending upon the dose. If you start on a high dose, a lot of patients have significant side effects that are not tolerable.
Yeah.
So backing off on the dose, changing the frequency, those are also some other options.
Ways to get around it.
Absolutely.
All right, good to know. Philip says, I just started with Ozempic today to lower my A1C and lose some weight. Once I reach a goal, can I stop using this medication?
Okay, so this is a good question. A lot of people have this question. It actually depends. It's not one answer for all the patients.
Right.
So for example, if your diabetes is better, if your weight loss is better, and if you stop the medication, some people actually report weight gain following, stopping the medication. So it depends on who the patient is. What I do and what is recommended actually for these medications is lowering the dose.
Okay.
So once you get to the goal, lower the dose, see what your body does. How do you react to that low dose? Keep it at low dose. If you're doing really well, then it is worthwhile to see if you discontinue, does the weight come back? Does their A1C start to go up? Now, what will help here is if you maintain a good lifestyle. That is always going to improve your chances of coming off the medication. But it is all about trial on every patient. It's different for different people.
Yeah, so definitely check in with his own
Correct.
primary care.
Exactly.
Okay. How do you know which drug works best for me? Mounjaro, Wegovy, Zepbound, or Ozempic? Is the criteria different for each?
Oh, this is a good question. So Mounjaro and Ozempic are actually FDA approved for diabetes, not obesity. And Wegovy and Zepbound are FDA approved for obesity. So that's where the distinguishing factor is. Now, we know based on studies that Mounjaro and Zepbound actually help with more weight loss compared to Wegovy and Ozempic. Now, the third factor that plays into this is insurance. What does your insurance cover? So I would say all these medications are great for diabetes or obesity management, But the question is, what does your insurance cover and what is your copay? These medications are pricey.
Right.
So what is the copay that you are able to actually afford to take these medications?
Yeah, and that could dictate what you end up taking.
Correct.
Yeah. All right, Sonal, that was so valuable information. Thank you so very much. Today, we are talking about travel insurance. Many of you still have summer trips coming up, or maybe you've already been planning for the fall, but should you buy travel insurance along with your flight or cruise? According to a recent survey by Business Insider, about a third of people bought insurance primarily because they feared issues like delayed flights or moved reservations, while about 29% were worried about a health emergency. So, is it right for you? Let's find out on this Money Saving Monday. We're joined by travel expert Susan Green of Susan's Travel Services. All right, start off with the different kinds of travel insurance that are available out there.
Yeah, so really you're looking at, you can do insurance that is just medical. You can do cancel for any reason, or you can do an insurance policy that's going to cover both. There are some locations when you travel, like to Africa, they're going to require you to have insurance. Okay. They require that when you purchase your trip. But we were just talking about this. There's also insurance that comes at the end of things like airline tickets.
Right, when you're booking and going through all the steps.
And so we always say this, insurance is when you don't want to lose something. So you have to look at it as airlines after COVID took off that change fee, which is really nice, right? So you can use that in that airline ticket for that year. Now, if you're not planning on traveling, get the insurance and you can get your cash back. But you got to know a couple things about insurance. Most of the time, there's two things. One is if you have a pre-existing condition, for example, I was explaining, I am an asthmatic. I have to buy my insurance within 15 days of when I purchase my initial deposit on my trip. And I will tell you, they're going to check. They're going to ask for your credit card receipt and they're going to check and make sure. If not, they're going to cover everything. You can buy insurance up until the day before you leave. They're just not going to cover if I have an asthma attack, which is primarily the reason I'm not going on my trip.
Okay.
Right? The second thing that you want to look at when you're looking at insurance is it going to cover, what is the reason it's going to cover? Is it going to cover you because you're going to have something that's going to come up for family emergency or for financial reasons, or is there going to be a strike or something like that? And that does happen. We had people that went to Machu Picchu last year and their insurance did not cover for civil unrest. Well, how many of us know what that is, right? Yeah, so it gets really, really confusing sometimes when you're looking at insurance.
Okay, so when should you not even, it's not even something that you should worry about?
I typically don't buy insurance when I'm buying it with airline tickets. I know the airlines don't like that, but because I'm planning on traveling again, I also want to look at, are they willing to give you a refund? A lot of times when you book a hotel, they're like, hey, up until 24 hours before you go, you get your money back. Not a problem. You're taking a risk. But that's when you can look at, hey, I'm willing to take that risk and that's not a problem.
Right.
Most of the time when we work with our wholesalers, your final payment is 60 to 90 days before you go. That's a big time for you to figure out, oh my gosh, I broke my foot, I can't go on my trip. Right? And then you're like, we've had those conversations, I'm so sorry, you aren't getting back your $8,000. That's a lot of money to lose. And that's when we go back to what I first said at the beginning.
Right, so it's worth buying.
Yeah, it's worth buying. Yeah, and so it's based on your age and how much your trip cost. So you have to understand, yes, when you're older, it's gonna cost you more than it is when you're younger. And there's different policies and they get really confusing whether or not, what you need and what you don't need.
And that was my next question is how do you choose when you have so many different options?
Well, I would really try to talk with someone who works in this business. We are not insurance agents either, but someone that's really familiar with it because there are everywhere from, we have one insurance policy that says, hey, if you get hurt while you're in the Caribbean, we're gonna fly you to the hospital of your choice.
Oh.
Well,
that's got to be at a premium.
It is. Yeah. So some people are like, my mom is older and she does not want to be treated while she's in the Caribbean. She would want to come back to Scottsdale and go to a hospital here. And that's part of what you're paying for. And other people are like, I just want to make sure that if I can't go, I get my money back and I don't lose $8,000.
Okay.
So you need to have somebody that's going to be able to go through it. You can always call that insurance agent before you put your money down. Because once you pay, you get no money back. Yeah, it's a premium.
Right.
And I remind people, I always compare it to car insurance. They do underwrite you. They are in that business. They are going to compare and look at your bills and make sure you are sick, Tram. You are not going to the Olympics, and we are going to give you your money back. Not, oh, you just didn't feel like going, and now you're saying that you're sick.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Ooh, all right. So make sure you ask plenty of questions.
Ask plenty of
before
questions,
you
call them.
plunk
There's
down
always
that
someone
money.
that is your advocate for you.
Yeah, all right, Susan, great advice.
Always.
Thank you so much. Well, with summer vacation still in full swing, many of you are still planning to hit the roads or skies, not just with your family, but also with your pets. In fact, according to Dogster, 78% of pet owners in the U.S. travel with their pets every year. But it's not just a matter of throwing Fido in the car and taking off. There are extra things that you need to do before you travel with your pet. So let's ask the expert. Joining me now is Brett the vet with Arizona Animal Hospital. All right, Brett, let's go over the specific things that you recommend all owners should do. And starting with car safety. People should really, strap their dogs into a seatbelt or maybe even put them in a crate.
Sure. If you're going to travel with your pet, like many people are this year, maybe do a little trial run, these short trips to the mailbox, I always say. If your dog gets car sick, you want to, have the solutions for that, whether they're raised up so they can look out the window.
Right.
And versus tucked down there and miserable the whole way. If they need any medications for travel, such as vomiting or upset tummy.
Right. And I wanted to ask about the medications because,
Yeah.
I've never done that with my little Sonny, but we hear about the prescription ones. What about the over-the-counter ones?
Over-the-counter is where I reach a lot. It's
Okay.
Dramamine, but you got to get the dose right for the dog. If Dramamine for car sickness.
Okay.
Okay, that's what I would use, but it's really got to get the dose right. You got to look that up and make sure you're not overdosing a little Chihuahua versus, how do you dose a Chihuahua versus a Great Dane?
Right,
with those
right.
meds. So if you have a really small dog, I'd be careful with the over-the-counters because you can overdose.
Yeah, that's my concern too. But aside from Dramamine, don't they make specific, car sickness, if you will, for dogs specifically over the counter?
Not so much over the counter. There is a lot of supplements, remedies, which are not drugs.
Maybe that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, they're not the prescription drugs, but the over-the-counter supplements. Meclizine is like Dramamine. Those are the
Okay.
human generics that you can use and get at the human pharmacy. Otherwise, there are veterinary-specific prescriptions that you have to get from your doctor, your veterinarian. And I'd say it's a bit of trial and error too for the behavioral components of travel, not
Right.
just upset tummy, but if you get anxiety, it's a trial and error for those medications.
Which is why it's so important to try these drugs out well before your trip
Yes.
versus the day before.
We see that. Yeah, and this time of year too with the heat, it's another huge consideration. Don't leave your dog in the car while it's running because we know that you can have those problems too. Always be mindful where you're going. If it's the hot pavement, at the beach or obviously here in Arizona, if
Yes.
you're traveling to here, which a lot of people aren't doing this time, make sure you protect their feet.
Right,
Um,
right.
The kennel is always my favorite thing. I've said this before on the show. Take a crate, and the crate is generally a familiar thing for the pet. So
Yeah.
wherever you go, that should go with because the dog's much more comfortable in the crate.
Right.
And
We've talked about how dogs should have eye protection, and you actually snapped a photo when you were out on your travels.
love it.
Okay, that is hilarious. It's super cute, but also this is something you would actually recommend.
Yeah, so a lot of people ask, hey, is it okay if my dog pops his head out the window? And I'd say for short periods.
Yeah.
For short periods, but this dog obviously loves the attention, and the goggles are really giving him affect. Those protect his eyes from debris, road debris, dust, et cetera, et cetera. So if your pet will wear him and he loves to pop his head out the window, then I think it's
know.
okay.
The key thing, if your pet will wear them. I see
Yes.
Sunny trying to get it off. What about insect bites? That happens. All the critters are out. What you would be mindful of?
Oh yeah, where you're going. If you're camping, are there ticks, fleas, other bugs? We have a lot of snowbirds here that travel, and I always ask where they're going and make sure we get them outfitted for problems in that region. Whether you're going to the beach, if you're going to the mountains, you're going to the East Coast where Lyme disease, for example, is a problem. And then furthermore, what I know about that dog, this dog, every time he drinks the water in the ocean, he gets GI upset. So I want to send that pet owner with proper medication to put that fire out to make their trip a more pleasurable experience.
Yeah.
Instead of having to, seek an emergency vet 3 in the morning.
Sure.
So make sure if you have specific conditions, take your little travel kit with you, your pharmacy kit, your med kit for your dog. And I like to help people outfit for those trips.
Good to know. All right, Brett, thank you. Now it's your turn. If you have any questions you want to ask our expert today, text us 602-444-1212. Again, make sure to let us know who you are and where you're texting from, and also send a picture. We'd love to see your pet. So time now to ask the expert. Here to answer your questions live on the air is Dr. Brett Cordes from Arizona Animal Hospital. All right, our first one. Should my dog be free to roam the back of an SUV or station wagon?
Good question. You have to balance the risk. If your dog does better off leash in that area, is more comfortable, it might reduce the anxiety.
Yeah.
But you also have to be careful. If you do get into an accident, that could be putting you and your pet at bigger risk, right? Loose objects flying around, you don't want that to happen, God forbid. But balance the risk.
Right. Think about everything.
Yeah, we recommend keeping them restrained.
Yeah, all right. From Lily in Mesa, she says, we are planning to take our 2 golden doodles with us to the beach in San Diego. We've never done this before, and we will only take them to a designated dog beach. But is there anything to worry about as far as bacteria or any other thing that could make them sick in the ocean? We kind of mentioned this. This is a good question.
Yeah, it's a great question.
Yeah.
Because so many of our Phoenicians go to Arizona.
Right.
So
They're called zonies.
Zonies
yes,
go to
in
the
San
beach.
Diego,
Yeah.
yeah.
So Lily, I do want you to send a picture of them at the beach later.
That'd be
so
great.
there's a lot of things to consider. If they've never been there, I would put the leash on. Don't just give them free rein to run to the ocean and disappear under the waves. We see a lot of things like drinking too much of the salt water really upsets the stomach. That we've seen sand colic, where they just are in playing and eat so much sand it sets in their belly like a rock, and we have to do things to fix that. There are some sand fleas that can be a bit of a nuisance, but a lot of times eating things at the beach like a fish hook or a dead fish can really cause some GI problems. So I would say control the situation. It's not a frat party. It's a bit more of a controlled environment as you get them used to that new environment.
Yeah, because it could be so new for them.
Yes,
Yeah, I know it was new for my little Sonny.
Take some doggy bags too.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. Next up, can you give a 32-pound Bernedoodle who licks one paw some Benadryl? And if so, how much? We talked about weight, and you got to be careful with the amount.
Yeah, well, thanks for the picture. That's cute.
Yes.
So Benadryl works one of 2 ways. It will either work to relax your pet, or your pet may fight the effects of Benadryl, and it can hyperexcite your dog.
Yeah.
And that turns your trip into a nightmare. Same thing happens with children too.
Yes.
You've maybe heard. So I do a dry run at home, make sure it works. Just because it works the first time doesn't mean it'll work the second time. A 32-pound dog, I'd start with a children's dose of Benadryl, 25 milligrams. Otherwise, I'd be careful. Usually I say less is more. You don't need it.
Yeah.
You just work with commands and good obedience training, expectations of good discipline, so to speak. And medications are sort of a distant second in terms of, do you really need them or not? But if you do, Benadryl, we have other medications that we think are working better.
Yeah.
But
All right.
I'd say 25 milligrams to start.
Once a day?
You can do
as
a
needed?
couple times a day.
A couple times a day?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you for writing it.
Great one to have in your travel kit, though, for bee stings. That's another thing. You brought that up earlier, so thanks for the reminder.
For pets and children.
Yes, that's
All right.
right.
I've seen those safety harnesses that look like seat belts. Are those safer for an animal?
Yes, they're safer for your pet and they're safer for you when you're out there. Again, you don't want, God forbid you get into an accident, you don't want the pet to fly out, You don't want that to happen. So yes, it is safe. Keep them bolted in for those trips.
Yeah.
Is our recommendation.
Okay.
For
Dr.
sure.
Brett, thank you so much. We appreciate
Tran.
your help for our viewers. We are talking about mindfulness and meditation. Now, some of you have probably practiced the 2 techniques individually, but have you ever thought about the 2 together? It can be even more powerful for your mind. So how do we do that? Let's ask the expert. Joining me now is therapist Juliana Linden, along with her son Luke, who I'm sure most of you already know. He's part of our 12 News sports team. We love him. And the reason why we wanted to include Luke in on this conversation is because this is something that you also practice on a daily basis.
Yeah, quite a bit. It definitely has a positive impact in my life. And we'll get to kind of how I came to that place, but it's something something I love to do, and it really helps my mental health in a sense.
Yeah. Okay. So Juliana, let's set the foundation of this. Let's
Yes.
talk about mindfulness and meditation. Explain.
Okay. Mindfulness is really when you're in the moment, you're in the here and now. And meditation is part of mindfulness, but it's expanded. So, what I mean by that is meditation is when you get the space between the thoughts. And that takes time and practice. We have this monkey mind, right? So, we
Right.
need to come in and kind of calm ourselves. And when we can get that space happening, wow, that's when it translates to our life.
So it's almost not it's almost not good enough to be mindful.
That's right.
It's even better to take it a step forward to
It is.
meditate
It
in that
is.
space.
But a great place to start is by being mindful.
Mm-hmm.
And we can use that in so many avenues in our lives. For example, if you're in a relationship and you want to become more mindful in it, because
Yes.
how often are we in it with someone and we're somewhere else?
All the
we're
time,
thinking
yeah.
of a million things.
Yeah.
So you would say to yourself, okay, I'm going to put my phone down. I'm going to pay attention to what's happening. I'm going to listen.
Right.
So we can do that with all kinds of things in our life.
Okay, so this is really interesting
Yeah.
because when we were talking about this, it's like, oh yeah, this is great, but I'm wondering, how did you start to practice this?
So
And why?
Yeah, great question. So I will never forget when I was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis just a handful of years ago. Mom and sisters flew out to Greensboro, North Carolina at the time. That's where I was working and living. And it's a hard thing to accept and work through. And I remember, Mom, you came to me and said, I have a tool for you to try to help combat this and work through these dark times. And it was meditation. And at the time, I was scared. I didn't know what to do. I was desperate, so I took that challenge head on, and it's definitely something that's a practice and takes time, and you got to work through it. And, I was able to really visualize my health and my mind's eye and visualize my life and being a better version of myself and being healthy again and transcending myself to a better place. And, we've always heard professional athletes talk about visualization and seeing themselves hoisting the trophy after a big championship game or something along those lines. And it's a very similar way in that respect. And I just will never forget how it really impacted my life in such a positive way mentally. And you see it start to appear in your life in different ways. And if you continue that practice, the benefits are just tremendous from my own personal experience. All thanks to Mom helping me with that.
That is so
great.
fascinating. So do you do this every single day? I mean, how do you do it?
I don't do it every day. Back when I was in the middle of that health crisis, it was every single day, and I was really entrenched in that process and practicing that and really looking within and trying to calm the mind and calm the spirit and work through that. But I do it probably a couple times a week now and just try to keep the mind in balance and keep it in check. And we work in a crazy business, right? It's nonstop. So
I
we
was
gotta
taking notes before Paris. How to calm the mind.
exactly calming the mind and just trying to center yourself, especially when you feel maybe a little off balance.
Right. Okay, so walk me through this here, along with our viewers here. So how do you start it? Like, your visualization. What is that like? To both of you.
Okay.
Don't jump at once. Yeah. I know you both have a lot to say.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I think an easy way for people to start is really to use their breath. So when you are feeling anxious, when you're feeling out of control, when you're feeling like your life just isn't in your hands anymore, if you just go to a quiet place and start to concentrate on the breath, because most often we don't breathe properly. We breathe in a very shallow way, right? So when you start getting into the rhythm of breathing, you're sending a signal to your brain and to your body to calm. And that's when, if you do it and you rehearse it and practice it, you can use it in your daily life to alleviate anxiety. I use it all the time with my clients, teaching them. I've seen more anxiety in the past couple of years than I've seen for many years.
Yeah, it's very, to piggyback off that, especially it's very challenging at first because your mind wanders a lot and you can't focus and you're thinking about 10 different things, which is fine. The way I like to think about it is if you have a random thought come, it's just a cloud that passes by.
Okay.
And then you focus back on the breath and try to just hone in on yourself and your mind, body, and spirit, and that helps really work through that. And bit by bit, it gets a little bit easier and you notice those positive impacts over time.
Oh, fascinating.
It was a joy to watch,
Yeah.
That changes in him, really. He
And
was just a kid, you
I
know?
bet. And it is life-changing.
It really is,
Yeah.
It changed my life in many different ways, many different positive ways, mentally and spiritually, physically, all those things. Yeah.
Well, we are so grateful for the both of you. And again, just to share your own personal experience. That's always so, it strikes a chord with so many people. So we appreciate that. And we always appreciate you.
We do.
We always do.
That's Mama.
Yeah, I know. Moms are the best. All right, your turn. If you have any questions you want to ask our expert today, maybe even Luke too. Hey, text us 602-444-1212. Again, make sure to let us know who you are and where you're texting from, and we'll get some of your questions answered live on the air in about 20 minutes. Time now to ask our expert. Here to answer your questions live on the air about mindfulness and meditation is therapist Juliana Liddon. All right, our first one. What do I do if I feel like my mind is racing and I can't relax or sit still?
This is where we have to practice. We have to practice going into a quiet space and using our breath. And the more you do that, even if you start out like 3 minutes at a time, and just sitting on your couch, just closing your eyes and starting to breathe, having an awareness of that breath makes a huge difference, but you've got to keep doing it. It's a discipline.
Do you physically mean a quiet space? Or, because sometimes when you're at work,
well, yeah, no. It's got to be a quiet space.
Okay. Okay.
Otherwise,
in the dark closet.
See, because we're so distracted
I know.
anyway,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So you need to, I don't care, if you have to go into the bathroom.
Yeah, sure.
Whatever.
Wherever you can get some peace and quiet.
That's right.
Next question. When I see it on TV and it's always dark and quiet when people are in a yoga pose, do I need to do that?
No.
That does look like they're, doing it well. But
Right. It's like, how
perfect can you get?
You're
Yes.
right. No, you don't have to be the guru on the mountain, right? Absolutely not. There's so many ways to do it. I tell my clients all the time, you can perfect it in your own way. You can get a book. You can sit and just be even mindful. If you're just in a space and you're aware of what's going on besides the distraction of life, that's a way to meditate. There's walking meditations, So you can find your own way.
Okay. All right. Good to know. Tom from Scottsdale says, is transcendental meditation any good? I've heard of this.
It is. It's fabulous.
Okay.
But there are a lot of different practices.
Yeah.
And some of them are very, very specific. You have to go in this way. You have to come out this way. You've got a bell, or you got this music, or you've got all these things.
That sounds complicated. Okay.
And so that's okay if that's your thing.
Yeah.
But I like to tell people, you can make it your own.
Okay.
And you can if you just start with the breath and work at getting that space between the thoughts with the breathing where you get the calm, all of a sudden you're like, oh, I had like space between my thought, and then you're like, wow, that's when you really start to make great things happen and change in your life, when you can keep that calm.
Yeah, all right. I'm so doing this, Juliana.
Good.
I know. On the plane ride to Paris. Thank you so much. You are always. Don't laugh at me, Cam. Do not laugh at me. All right. I need calmness in my life. Juliana, you are wonderful as always. I'm going to miss you.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to follow our YouTube channel for more content and watch the Ask the Expert segment weekdays at 4 p.m. and right here on our 12 Plus app.